So I saw this story. Brock Purdy is saying, hey, people have asked him about this, and he has said, I understand kind of my role in Kyle Shanahan's offense. Here's Brock Purdy. So for the record, people think I'm highly critical of Brock Purdy, and I said this yesterday to J-Mac. J-Mac loves him so much, I'm like, pump the brakes. He's the last player picked for a reason. But it's not that I don't like him. But what he's saying is, I understand my role in Kyle's system. Now, for the record, I think most young quarterbacks do. Most don't come in cocky and ad lib. So this is kind of the foundation. What he's telling you is, I'm good at the foundational stuff that matters. But that's never been the question with Brock Purdy. Sean McVay bailed on Jared Goff, who got him to a Super Bowl. He didn't bail on Jared Goff because he wasn't coachable or didn't listen or didn't understand his place in McVay's system. He bailed on him because when Belichick solved the wizardry of McVay's offense in the Super Bowl, Goff couldn't make a play outside of structure. If you go to Nick Saban's career at Alabama, the quarterbacks he lost to, and some of them I didn't even love, Johnny Manziel, were guys that could do things out of structure. Now, you don't want that to be the foundation of the house, but Patrick Mahomes has trailed by 10 points in the last 2 Super Bowls, and he has won both. Not because of structure, but because second half, fourth quarter, limping, he has to reel off one of those great plays. I still think San Francisco and Philadelphia had better rosters than Kansas City. Kansas City's structure allowed them to keep it close, and eventually the great ones that hold the trophies up have to make something happen. But you can win a lot of games in this league being Dak and Cousins. I'll give you an example. Alex Smith. There's 2 traits in this league that will win you a lot of games. Smart and accurate. Brock Purdy is clearly both. Cousins, Dak, Alex Smith have won a lot of games because they're smart and accurate. But they're not hoisting trophies because as you play deeper into the playoffs, you face an Allen, a Lamar, a Stafford, a Burrow, a Mahomes. And that's my question, contextualizing it about Purdy. I think he's in the class of Dak and Cousins and Alex Smith. And by the way, Alex Smith is 69, 31-1 when he had Harbaugh and Andy Reid. But both Harbaugh and Andy Reid at one point said, I'm going to move off him. So Purdy has the Cousins, Dak, Alex Smith traits, and those traits can win divisions, and those traits can win a lot of games, 3 out of 4, but they don't hold trophies. And eventually the standard with Shanahan and the Niners is going to be tested. Because if Brock, once again, when he's not being paid, and you can stack the roster, which you can't do once you pay him, then you got to peel off 3 or 4 stars. But if he can't win that big game against a Stafford, he can't win that big game against an emerging a Jordan Love or a Mahomes or an Allen Lamar, Herbert with Harbaugh, then Shanahan will have to make the same decision Andy Reid did with Alex Smith or Harbaugh did with Alex.
Okay. So I don't think that's totally fair. I understand what Colin is saying, and I think that there is a lot of truth to it. I do. But Brock Purdy is not why they didn't win a Super Bowl last year. Now, could technically a better quarterback than Brock been able to overcome some of the issues that the 49ers faced in the Super Bowl? Sure. Absolutely, right? If Brock Purdy was a 10% better quarterback than he was, would have that been a difference? Probably. But I also don't think that's fair because a whole collection of things went wrong for the 49ers. Multiple fumbles. It's like, what do you want Brock Purdy to do with regards to that? Greenlaw getting injured. What do you want him to do about that? Right? So it's just like, that's just not fair. Brock Purdy was in a position to win that Super Bowl. And again, I do concede that if he was a little bit better of a quarterback, he would be able to overcome that. But if that's the case, we would then have to start putting him in the category of like all-time greats. And I just don't think it's fair that a quarterback is not good enough to like win or good enough to be your quarterback unless he's a literal all-time great. Like that is where some of the comparisons of comparing him to, say, a Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, stuff like that, it kind of is like, well, how is that fair? Like, right? You're either Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Peyton Manning, or you're just not. You're just garbage. You're just average. Can't win with him. Move on. I don't think that's necessarily fair. Now, to also be fair, though, as I've said in the past, majority of Super Bowls, the vast majority of Super Bowls, are won by Hall of Fame quarterbacks. So it does matter. You do need top quarterback play. It certainly makes it a lot easier. And I think when you have a top quarterback, like a true Hall of Famer, all-time great, your team is more resilient. And you don't need all these perfect pieces. It is easier to overcome drop passes like Patrick Mahomes. It is easier to overcome fumbles and an injured defense, right? Like you can do that. And so it does make sense. But that doesn't mean you throw Brock Purdy out with the bathwater. I think that just becomes a bridge too far. And I don't think it's inherently accurate, because the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes this past season, they needed all those things to kind of go wrong for the 49ers for them to end up ultimately winning that Super Bowl. We know that because all of those things led ultimately to the 49ers, or for the Kansas City Chiefs to win. So we can say if they didn't fumble, if Christian McCaffrey didn't fumble, if the punt returner didn't fumble, then the 49ers would have won that game. That's not a far stretch to make. That's not living in a fantasy world, because those things all happened, which ultimately led to the Chiefs just barely winning. It's one thing if it was a blowout. If they won by 20, then we could say, okay, well, those things didn't matter. But we know those things mattered. It's undeniable. It's undeniable. Greenlaw getting injured was a devastating blow. The Kansas City Chiefs ate on whoever replaced him. I forget his name, but just feasted on him. It was like 100% completion percentage. It was like 7, 8, 9, 10 plus completions. Perfect passer rating, 100 plus yards and a touchdown. I mean, it was just game, set, match. Those things matter. So I kind of reject that. And to say, though, that we should always expect those great players to be able to overcome everything. Again, Patrick Mahomes wasn't able to overcome a poor offensive line. And if we want to say, well, Patrick Mahomes overcame not great offensive weapons last season, I keep always saying, but look at the defense. And look at what happened to the 49ers. And if we're saying that Brock Purdy's not a good enough quarterback, well, then the fact that Patrick Mahomes was able to hoist that trophy, doesn't that say that he was able to kind of take advantage of not a great quarterback? That if because we're saying that now, Colin's saying that Brock Purdy is essentially not a great quarterback. Well, then it's not that impressive that a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes was able to beat him in the Super Bowl. Then it's not that impressive. And therefore, if we had a better quarterback for the 49ers, Patrick Mahomes wouldn't be hoisting that trophy, because he hoisted that trophy beating Jimmy Garoppolo, another bad quarterback that Colin is saying is not good enough. So that's one Super Bowl. It's like, okay, is that really that impressive? And now Jalen Hurts has fallen out of favor. A lot of people see him as, now I know Colin doesn't even see him as a top 10 quarterback right now. So is that impressive? You understand what I'm saying? So, and this is not supposed to be about Patrick Mahomes. I want to focus on Brock Purdy. But it's just, when we want to say that these other quarterbacks are hoisting these trophies because they're the difference maker, it's like, but then you're just saying that they're taking advantage of just like not good quarterbacks. And under that logic, well then does it matter? So I just kind of fail to like fully go the full circle of that logic. I understand the logic, and I understand that there is a tremendous amount of truth. You are undeniably going to be a better, more resilient team with a better quarterback, with a quarterback that can do more, with a quarterback that can go outside of the scheme and can freestyle and do all the things that he needs to do, right? That's undeniable. But I just think that when you're in a system and you have a team like Shanahan, like Shanahan's system, and what the 49ers have, I think referring to Brock Purdy as a type of quarterback that is not the quarterback that can lead them to a Super Bowl, I just don't think it's fair. Because there's a lot of quarterbacks, great quarterbacks that can go beyond the system. They might not thrive in Shanahan's system because of some of the things that they try and want to do. Like you need a lot of trust. And that's something that Purdy has going for him tremendously. They try to create that system, in Dallas with Dak. And it hasn't worked out too well for them. They've won a lot of games, sure. But they lost to inferior quarterbacks. We talk about quarterbacks being the difference maker. Dak lost to Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, twice, right? In the playoffs. If memory serves me correctly. I think Dak Prescott's a way better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo. Yet, that system was able to take advantage of Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. And then the other question is can Brock Purdy lead the 49ers back to a Super Bowl? And I do wholeheartedly believe that. I think the teams around them are getting better. I think the margin of error is only continuing to get smaller and smaller because I do think the 49ers could have lost to the Packers, and I do think they could have lost to the Lions, just like how I said that the Chiefs could have lost to the 49ers. But I don't think that it all has to fall on Brock Purdy as being just this weak point. But when the margin of error gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and you have to pick between two quarterbacks, then yeah, it absolutely, you will lean on the team with a better quarterback. If Jordan Love ends up being an even better quarterback than people realize, and he ends up being a top 3 quarterback, and if he was able to play like a top 3 quarterback against the 49ers last season in the playoffs, then the Packers win that game. So it is. It's an interesting discussion to have, but I just feel as though that Brock doesn't always get the right shake of it all. I don't think we always look at things as clear when it comes to Brock Purdy. And again, I don't think we need, because we talk about, that Brock Purdy is in the category of Kirk Cousins and Dak Prescott. And I'm not so sure I believe that. I do grant that Brock Purdy is in a significantly better system and a better team than either of those quarterbacks have faced. But he's kind of proved something that those other quarterbacks haven't. The moment's not too big for him. That he's willing to step up and execute quite flawlessly. We've seen those other quarterbacks fail quite spectacularly. And I'm a big Kirk Cousins fan. Quite spectacularly, even under pretty great circumstances. Here's the reality. We are yet to see Brock Purdy fail in great circumstances. To me, that's a huge point that we are missing. Are we saying that Brock Purdy can't take it over or can't really carry the team in less than perfect circumstances? That technically remains to be seen, and I concede that. And maybe doesn't have that ability. But maybe what makes Brock Purdy so special is not that his ability to kind of overcome some of these deficits, but it's to be able to have such a high, incredibly success rate when the circumstances are great, which not all quarterbacks can say. Not even great elite quarterbacks can say. So maybe Brock Purdy's superpower is you give me the right system, you give me the right players and the right coach, and I will execute that offense flawlessly. I will not make these errors. I will do exactly what this system needs. I will be a Drew Brees, a Tom Brady. Set me up to succeed, and I will succeed. There are teams that set up Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott, other quarterbacks for success, and they haven't been able to execute it. And these aren't perfect examples, because I do think that the 49ers have been an exceptionally great top level roster. But I just think quarterbacks and skills and what they can offer a team it comes in different aspects. It's not always going to look like a Patrick Mahomes or even a Tom Brady. There's going to be different flavors, and we can't just use Patrick Mahomes, especially in the modern football, as just like you have to look like him. Otherwise, you're just not going to be able to be the difference maker. I personally do not believe in that. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Do you think Brock Purdy can actually lead the 49ers to another Super Bowl? And do you think he's, the reason why they haven't won a Super Bowl in the first place? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.